the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, rather, at The Hague in the Netherlands, hearing 2 days of arguments brought by South Africa and then the response by Israel on Thursday. In its rebuttal, Israel accusing South Africa of distorting reality in its attempt to get the UN's top court to force it to stop a military campaign in the town of Rafah in southern Gaza. We're joined now by the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. South Africa already has a case that's being considered by the ICJ that you brought earlier this year, Minister. The basis for South Africa's continued involvement in the ICJ case in The Hague last week. Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to the listeners of CapeTalk Radio. The reason that we continue to be involved is really centered around the fact that the onslaught against innocent Palestinian civilians continues unabated, with now new plans for attacking Rafah, where most Palestinians displaced from cities that have been bombarded previously have taken refuge. And it is really to continue to argue that there is an intent of genocide on the part of the State of Israel, given that you have these orders given to civilians that they must move from one area to another. As they move, they are bombarded. When they arrive, they are bombarded. So all attempts to seek refuge result in further killing.
The ICJ has already ruled on provisional measures against Israel. Of those measures, how many have been fulfilled so far?
Well, essentially, Israel has ignored the provisional measures, despite the fact that as a state party to the Convention against the crime of genocide, they are required in law and international law to act in accordance with the provisional measures. But they have ignored these. And I think despite their neglect in terms of acting on the measures, it's important that we do keep up evidence to the court and not give an impression that we join many in the world who are watching the killing of Palestinian people without taking any action whatsoever.
What then is the hope, if the ICJ does then rule in South Africa's favor, that Israel would then adhere to those provisions then issued by the ICJ?
Well, as you know, with respect to the planned attack on Rafah, a great number of countries worldwide, including the closest allies of Israel, have warned about a pending catastrophe. So with the measures, we hope the measures that the court would consider and hopefully rule on positively, the world will join us in saying to Israel, you must act in accordance with the measures. You've got to ensure that lives are protected. This is really a call both to the world, but also to the State of Israel, that more must be done to ensure that civilians are protected and are not just part of the bombardments that we have seen in the past months.
Minister, South Africa has in the past says that it is ready and willing to play a role as some sort of arbiter when it comes to negotiations, in that the South African example of a peaceful transition from apartheid to democracy could be used as some sort of blueprint. But can South Africa play still any meaningful role if it is a litigant in a case against Israel in the ICJ?
Well, as you're aware, South Africa has been the one country that has come forward and taken a position in an international judicial institution to draw attention to its belief that a genocide is underway. So I think it's important that South Africa did step forward. Whether there would be a negotiated process, the leadership of Israel has indicated they do not support the notion of a two-state solution, and thus they are obdurate in their belief that they will not have any negotiated process. Should we be invited, if such a process were to ensue, I would believe that it would be the Palestinian side that might invite South Africa to be party to such discussions. And of course, given that peace is a key foreign policy objective of South Africa, we would play a role should we be invited.
There are various geopolitical conflicts that are currently playing out and have questions being asked about what then South Africa's role, if it will apply the same approach in a Russia-Ukraine conflict, or will it apply the same approach in the ICJ if it comes to a case between the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces in Sudan. Would South Africa be willing to play as an instrumental litigant role before an international court like the ICJ?
Well, I cannot at this point answer this question, but indeed we must be even-handed on all cases, and where there is genocide and killing of the innocent, South Africa should be ready to stand up. With respect to Russia and Ukraine, as you know, we have been in constant discussion. We're one of the few countries that engages both countries' leaders, and we continue to do so, including expecting a call this week between our president and the president of Ukraine. So we continue to urge toward steps for peace. There has been peace deliberations on a plan of Ukraine. We've participated in all 5 meetings on that and have now been encouraging that we would want to see the Russian security advisors also come into that process. So indeed, South Africa is involved in a multifaceted set of engagements, including with the leadership of both protagonists in Sudan.
Because Amnesty International has on several occasions saying that civilians in Sudan are suffering unimaginable horror. That's a quote from Amnesty International amid, and again I quote, ethnically motivated violence in Darfur.
Indeed, this is something we have noted and been very concerned about in the African Union. This is why we had the leader of the Rapid Support Forces, as well as the vice president of the Armed Forces, the Transitional Council of Sudan, coming to meet with us. And we have indicated a readiness to draw the two parties together in order to encourage toward a settlement, because the harm that is being caused to the Sudanese people is absolutely horrific.
So you've already called on various sides to come round and meet either yourself or the president in Pretoria. But in the case of Israel-Palestine, essentially cut diplomatic ties with Israel. Is there any communication with the Israeli state and the current Israeli government on currently what is happening in Gaza?
No, there isn't. There isn't an interest in communication. And our primary concern are the Palestinian people. And I think we shouldn't forget that this is not a new conflict. It has been ongoing for over 70 years. And so clearly you have a state of Israel that isn't interested in finding a settlement that would allow peace and security in that part of the world.
Currently also playing itself out is recovery operations in Iran following the death of President, or reports of the death of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi over the weekend in a helicopter crash. It has raised some questions. It has raised some concerns about general safety and security in the Middle East. What information do you have regarding the death or the reported death of the Iranian president? What impact it could have on the stability of the Middle East at the moment, Minister?
Well, allow me to begin by expressing my sincere condolences at the passing of the Foreign Minister Abdullahi, with whom I had excellent collegial relations, as well as the sad passing of President Raisi. I believe that the leadership of Iran is working hard at ensuring stability. The latest information we have is that they will call a cabinet meeting today in order to give effect to the constitutional provisions which allow a leadership to be appointed following such a tragic loss. So I think the leadership of Iran is determined that there would be a smooth transition to ensure that they maintain the ability to govern the country. So my sense is, while there's a deep and very sad tragedy that has befallen the Republic of Iran, the government is really paying attention to the next steps.
Minister of International Relations, Naledi Pandor, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.